Hey everybody, and welcome to Sensation and Perception. Thank you so much for joining me on our very first video. My name is Alex. I am going to be your professor this semester. Hey, that rhymes. Kinda. But there's a good chance that some of you have had class with me before, which is awesome. I love seeing familiar faces and names online. But good chance a lot of you, at least half of you, haven't had a class with me before. So this video is serving as something like a first day of class type of welcome to the course type of situation. Now, before I get started, and I know I'm loading up a lot of introduction stuff first before we even get to the presentation, but for the most part, the videos that you're going to get this semester are going to be a little bit more bite-sized than this one. This one's going to run a little bit long. Most of the videos that I try to record are about 20 minutes long, so that way, if you're like me and you're not so good at binging a whole, a whole hour worth of content, you can kind of split it up a little bit. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just letting you know that I will try to remind you when there's a good time to take a break midway through this. I plan on it being about a 45-minute video. We'll see how we do. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining. Here is a quick optical illusion for you. There's a good chance you may have seen this the same effect before, especially if you like the band The Animal Collective, because they had an album where this was the artwork for it. So by now, if your eyes are moving across this screen, you well, depending on what device you're watching this from, there's a good chance that you see this as a moving tapestry of shapes. But the interesting thing is that it's not actually moving. I know this is a video. If you pause this video right now, you'll find that this is still going to move. This is an image, as you can see here. It's not like a video. However, our eyes perceive there to be motion. So why is it that we have a discrepancy between the objective reality, which is that this image is not moving, versus our subjective reality, which is that we do perceive it as moving, usually as long as our eyes are moving. If we focus right here on this little point right here, it'll stop moving. Why is that? We'll uncover that mystery this semester. So this video and presentation are really geared to kind of look at what are the course expectations, so what is this class going to be like, along with looking at a grading breakdown, so what assignments are we going to have and what are the explanations for what those assignments are for, and then I'll kind of talk about what are going to be the expectations for week one. Week one is very low stakes. Mostly I just want you to get used to using Play-Doh and Blackboard and being familiar with that, so that way you have everything you need, so that when we hit the ground running next week, you have your textbook and all that other stuff, and you know how to navigate Blackboard. All right, so let's get into what this course is. So one of the things that I like to do in this class is kind of show some perceptual illusions first before we try to define what sensation perception is, because honestly, sensation perception is not a concept that we're going to define until the first chapter. It's actually kind of difficult to do that, which is why we're going to wait a little bit to actually define it. So let me entice you with some of these perceptual effects. So here is the first one.
Tell you that the long end is nearer to you. Now, it is nearer to you now, but now I'll put it back near my body. Now it's nearer to me, but it still looks as if it's nearer you, doesn't it? Because you're used to seeing things bigger when they are closer to you. Now,
all right, obviously this is an Australian guy. This guy's talking with an accent. And what he's got here, he's got a piece of twine and he has a flat piece of paper that he just cut out earlier in the video. If you want to watch him do this and see how this is done, you can do that there. But he's going to let it spin, basically. He's going to hold it like that and it's going to spin, it's going to rotate. And I just want you to think about what you are perceiving in this motion.
Here's the spinning motor. It's simply a piece of cotton thread tied to this corner and tied to the other corner, and I've wound it around in my fingers so that when I let it go in a moment, it'll unwind, the thread will unwind, and you'll see the thing spinning. There we are. I'll hold it at the same level as your eyes and we'll let it go. Now you know that it's turning around in circles. In fact, if you look at it from above, you can see that it's turning around in a circle. But now your brain is doing something strange. It's telling you that it's not going around in a circle, but it's oscillating. In other words, it's turning part way, stopping, and then going back the other way. Now that's a strange effect, isn't it? But if you think that's strange, wait till I add something through the middle. What am I going to add? Well, I'm going to add a ballpoint pen. And to do that, I've placed a little piece of double-sided sticky tape on the ballpoint pen. You can use ordinary sticky tape if you like. I'll place it right through the centre of the window and press it in place like that. Now this time, by fixing on the pen, you'll be able to see that the pen is going around in a circle and not going backwards and forwards. But what's your brain going to tell you about the window? Will your brain allow you to see the window going around in a circle with the pen? Or are you going to see something really strange? Well, have a look at that. That's unbelievable, isn't it? You can see the pen going around in a circle, but your brain is telling you that the window is going part way around and turning and going the other way. And yet in order to do that, the two things have to pass through one another, the pen and the window. You know it's not possible. You know it can't happen. And yet as you look at it, you see them going through one another every time they...
Okay, I'm going to cut off the Australian bloke right there. So, how is that possible? We'll talk more about that this semester, but it is another example of how the objective reality of matter is different than the subjective reality that we experience. Here is kind of a fun little example of this, where it looks like these little stick figures are climbing up these stairs and jumping off. Now, what I want you to do, if you have this blown up on a bigger screen like a monitor, is put your finger on one of those little stick men, and what you'll see is that, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What you'll see is that they actually are not moving, that they are completely static, as you can see here. That this guy is not moving, neither is this guy over here. This guy looks like he's running. You can see he's not actually going anywhere. And it's not that he's going slow, it's that he's really not going anywhere. So what is it about the color differences here that is instilling this, the kind of false perception of motion movement? We'll talk about that in chapter 8. All right. We'll definitely be talking about this. This phenomenon, it's interesting. When I first started teaching Psych 101 way back in my young days as a grad student, this was all the rage, this image, this meme that people were passing around. And now I don't even know if y'all recognize or know what this is these days. But this dress, and this is the downside of having an online class for this type of thing, is that I can't really control for how you see these images. Are you seeing them in bright illuminance settings or low illuminance settings? Are you seeing them with headphones on or without? How big is the screen to your face? Things like that. But one of the fun things about showing this in class is that people get very heated about what they see here. This is a blue and black dress. It is blue and it is black. Yes, that is true, but about a third of people watching this video will perceive this dress as white and gold. And the thing that's really striking about that is that people that see this as blue and black have such a hard time even imagining someone seeing this as white and gold. And the people that see this as white and gold have such a hard time understanding that people can see this as blue and black. You get really committed to which side you are on. We'll talk more about that in chapter 5, which is the chapter on color perception. Here's another quick example of how color can give the illusion of motion. So these things are not actually moving, even though they do seem like they are. Next, we got, this is an auditory example. So if you have on headphones, that would work best here. So again, this is one of those things that kind of went viral for a week or so, and then people forgot about it. This is the Yanni versus Laurel audio. And I posted a link in the lecture slides. I always try to do that, but this is really annoying. You got to have a New York Times subscription to listen to this one. So I'll play it for you here. I'm going to play. It's one sound, and some people hear it as the word Yanni. Some people hear it as the word Laurel. And Yes, I know. Those two words sound incredibly different. Those two words don't even sound at all alike. They don't even have the same letters. There's no N's and there's no R's, cross-pollinating here. And Y's and L's across. So how on earth do they sound the same? So I don't know what the volume will be like on your end, so I'm going to let this play for a little bit.
Yuri, 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 Yuri.
Okay, so you heard it multiple times. Which one did you hear, Yanny or Laurel? It's different for different people. Now watch this.
Yuri,
Yuri, Yuri, Yuri,
Most people
Yuri,
hear this as Yanny.
Yuri, Yuri,
I can tweak
Yuri,
the audio
Yuri,
properties of the sound wave to make it sound like
Laurel, Laurel,
Laurel.
Laurel, Laurel, Laurel.
Okay, so to recap, when the slider was in the middle, maybe you heard one or the other, but everyone hears one. When I moved it over to the right, most people are going to hear Yanny. When I move all the way to the left, most people are going to hear Laurel. Now watch what happens whenever I slowly manipulate that sound wave to sound more like Yanny.
Laurel, 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 Yuri, 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 Yuri,
Yuri, Yuri, Yuri, Yuri, Yuri, Yuri.
Okay, so for most people, they will gradually, at some point along the spectrum, change what they hear. It's no longer Laurel, it becomes Yanny. For me, it was right before the halfway point. I seem to hear Yanny better than Laurel. So we'll talk about why that happens later this semester and why it is that we only seem to be able to perceive one of those occurring at a time instead of them both playing simultaneously. All right, here is a color after image example. So just focus on this little black dot right here in the middle of this strangely colored American flag. Just look at it for just a moment. If you're watching this on a portable device like a phone, try not to move that device. Just try to let your eyes soak up that information. The longer your eyes soak up that unmoving static image, the better this will work, because in just a moment I'm going to get rid of this and it's going to become, as long as you're not moving your eyes, it becomes an after image. It becomes a ghostly artifact of the correct colors of the American flag, red, white, and blue. You can find this also in motion. I'm not going to show it to you though. We'll go over it again in chapter 5. But if you want to see this, and I love this video, I love showing this video in class. If you want to check it out, there's the link for it there. Alright, I will show you this one though. I will show you this motion after effect. So much like the after effect that we just saw for color, the same exists for our other perceptions too. Some of them are just not very interesting, but this one is very interesting, the motion after effect. So let's take a look at the motion after effect. So as this says, just make the video full screen if you can, which is why honestly, if you can, it's much better to just hit the link directly from the lecture slides instead of trying to watch this. I don't know how it's going to look on your screen, so we'll find out. But just try to focus on the center of the screen, and then whenever it's over, allow yourself to look around you. It takes about a full minute, which feels a little bit like an eternity sometimes. Here we go. How weird is that? It's still moving for me, kinda. Like all these little effects here are all kind of moving, even though they're static images. How weird. Okay, so that is the motion after effect. I showed that to a professor. I'm not going to say which one. I will later this semester. I'll tell you who it was. But I showed this to one of the professors in the psych department who said that they were going to promptly go throw up after they saw that, or after I showed it to them. All right, so we'll talk about how that works. So what is sensation? What is perception? We're going to be covering that this semester, obviously. But some of the other things that we're going to be covering, just in case you're curious about where this class leads, is we're going to be talking about how our eyes are able to see things directly in front of us. How are they able to detect these lines and perceive them as letters? We'll be talking about how our ears are able to detect vibrations in the air around us, which is another way of saying how do we hear. We'll be talking about the anatomy of the eyes and the ear. We'll be talking about how they function, how they transduce and how they transduce a physical stimulus to turn it into something that our brain can understand. We'll be talking about why we get car sick, why we get seasick. We're going to be talking about how we know the difference between somebody tapping your skin versus poking your skin. So how do we, even though it's a finger, why is it that it feels painful in one circumstance but not the other? We'll be talking about olfaction and smelling, so how our noses are able to detect differences in the chemicals around us in the air. And we'll talk about taste, which is how our tongue is able to tell us about the chemical properties of any stimulus, including how nutritious a piece of food is. And we're going to be doing this kind of talking about keeping this with an eye on research and how we know these things. And we'll be talking about signal detection theory for that reason, which is a way of kind of perceiving data, how we can analyze data using a different framework than what you normally get in a stats class. So this class is going to feel like biology, it's going to feel like anatomy, it's going to feel like physics even, it's going to feel like chemistry, and it's going to feel like philosophy, and every once in a while it will also feel a little bit like psychology as well. That is, and just to kind of warn you up front, that is usually some of the in my course evaluations, that is something that I see a lot of, is people say, this didn't really feel like a psychology class. And I kind of know what they mean. I kind of know what those people mean, because whenever I took this class when I was an undergrad, I kind of felt the same way too at first. But I think I remember the exact phrase that my undergraduate instructor, how he phrased it, is he said that sensation perception is where the rubber hits the road in terms of behavior. So that phrase, where the rubber hits the road. And what he meant by that is that if you think about psychology, all it is how the human body is reacting to stimuli internally and externally. So how it is that when we smell something delicious that our minds salivate, that our tongue salivates. Why is it that whenever we hear a song that we like, that it makes us feel good? Why is it that whenever we are hugged by somebody that we like, that it makes us feel good inside? All of these things require our bodies to detect something. So how do we detect it? That is sensation perception. All right, so that's my little speech there. So our textbook, here is an image of it. You probably got an email about it before the course began, but this is what it looks like. It is okay if you get the newest edition, but you do not need to get it brand new. You can get it used. You do not need any kind of code or access that you might have to pay extra for. You don't need any of that stuff. It's also okay if you get the 4th or 5th edition, but I will say that I work from the 6th edition. So whenever I'm making the quizzes, I literally have the textbook in front of me, and I'm looking through that information to try to generate questions. A lot of that information is the same as the 4th and the 5th edition as well. There are some different images. I think the 6th edition is the best of all. In the way that it explains things and in the way it presents data and stuff like that. But if you're on a budget, which I totally understand, it's okay to go back down to the 4th or 5th one, and I don't think it's going to affect your grade very much. I can't say how much it will, though. I hope you understand, because I can't make a quiz and look at all 3 versions of this textbook, and I also can't assign an earlier edition like the 4th or 5th, because our bookstore won't be able to bring in those older books because the publisher stops selling those because they want to write by the 6th edition ones. As you may tell, this is something I've thought a lot about because whenever I was in college, I was broke as a joke, and I did not have money to be thrown around at $200 textbooks willy-nilly. And so that's why I'm saying, like, if you can, it's okay to get one of these earlier versions. It is a good book. I like this book a lot. I like it in part because it is written by some of the best scientists in their fields. So, for example, Linda Butterchuck, she's one of my favorite psychologists working today. She's a taste researcher. And so chapter 15, which is about taste, is pretty much written based on her research. It's really, really cool. And Rachel Hers, fantastic olfaction researcher. So the chapter that she wrote, chapter 14, is great because you're having one of the world's best scientists in that field write directly about their experiences. Jeremy Wolf, he's somebody we're gonna talk a lot about this semester. In terms of visual attention, in terms of visual perception and behavior, dude is great. He's been writing this textbook for I guess decades now. The textbook that I used when I was an undergrad was the 2nd edition of this textbook. So it's been around for a long time, and each edition is a little bit better than the last. But with that being said, there hasn't been a ton of developments from the 4th edition to the 6th edition. It's not like we discovered, like, oh, actually we have five eyeballs, and so vision is radically different than what we thought. No, like, vision works the same as it always had, but we now know more about vision than we did 5 years ago. All right, so here are some class expectations. This class is going to be a lot of work. There are going to be a lot of assignments. If you've had a class with me before, then you know exactly what I mean by that. Each week there's going to be something that is due. There's going to be multiple things that are due. At least always one quiz and one discussion no matter what. So there's going to be a lot of work, but I do genuinely try to make this as fair as possible. I don't like asking really nitpicky questions. I don't like asking you questions about things that I don't think will ever come up in your life or your practice in psychology after this class. So, for example, I'm not going to ask you what is Linda Bartoshuk's middle initial. I'm not going to ask you what was her most recent publication. I'm not going to ask you how many olfactory glands does the nose hold. I'm not going to ask those kinds of questions because you're never going to need, or I'm not going to ask those on the exam because you're never going to need that information. Instead, I like to try to think about applied questions. I like to think about conceptual questions, not usually questions that are based from definitions, though. All right. So all the assignments are going to have very predictable and routine schedules. It's always going to be due Sunday by the end of the day. So if Sunday rolls around and you haven't done work for this class, you can probably feel that sense you have forgotten something because you probably did. All right, so how I see this class, I like seeing my relationship with students not as a antagonistic one, not as adversarial, but as that you and I are working together, that we are trying to work together to master this material and get really good at it and know it in and out and understand it and be able to apply it if we need to. So I feel like I am on your side in doing that. And in that light, I'm kind of like the coach. And if we're all on the same team, then I can't get out on the field and play, right? But I can give you every strategy that I can so that you can do as good as you can in this class, as you know, that you can master the material, that you can go out there on the field and win the game, so to speak. But I can't do that for you. But I can give you my playbook. I can give you the strategies that I've learned. I can give you the little tips that helped me whenever I was in your shoes, and I can give you maybe the tips about things that I've seen work for other students. So I want to be able to give you everything that you need to be able to ace the class, but I can't do that work for you. Here are some office hours, very, very boring information, I know, but this is all in the syllabus, but just in case, I'm best reached over email. Not be pedantic about this stuff, but if you email me, it'll be 24 hours. It's not going to be more than 24 hours, but it'll be 24 hours max before I can respond to you. So if you send me an email and it's been 10 hours, trust me, just grant me that little bit of grace. Don't email me again, or don't forward the email that you sent, because that's not going to make me go faster. And in fact, sometimes whenever students do that, I might slow down a little bit more. But anyways, I will get back to you within 24 hours, though. And if I don't, then absolutely email me back, and you can be passive aggressive if you want to be. But I will try to get back to you within 24 hours during the weekdays. You can do that there with that email. If you send something over Plato, the Plato messages, those are fine, but I don't get those alerts on my phone. Like it's much easier whenever you're working with email, because it pops up on your phone and it's super easy to access. It's a little bit harder to do that whenever you're working with Plato. So email is the best way to reach me if you can. Phone is not really a great way to reach me, but sometimes people like doing that. But if you leave a voicemail on that phone, if I'm not there in my office able to answer it, then it'll go to voicemail, and that voicemail will instantly reach me as an email. So I will get your message quick as well. These office hours, I know that we're online. I would love to see you in person. That would be awesome if I could see you in person and get to meet you and have like a face-to-face interaction with you. In the past, because most of the classes I teach are in person. I like teaching online though. I really enjoy it. But the thing that I like the least about it is that I feel like I don't quite get to know you as well as my in-person students. And so if you drop by, that would make my day during my office hours. But hey, some of you, I know that you don't live in Massachusetts. Hey, I don't either. I live in Connecticut. And some of you, I know that you work during the day, so you're not able to make these times. That's okay. You can email me, let me know what times do work for you, and I will do my best to meet with you either in person or online to do that. In case you want to meet in person, here's where you can find me. I am in the front main psych office. It's that on the side of the greenhouse in Wilson Hall. I'm just at the back of that suite. You can find my office there. Yeah, here's the commuter cafe, if you know where that is. Yeah, and the big science center that is so great and makes Wilson Hall look really old is in that direction. So that's where you can find me. All right, let's talk about the different assignments that we have this semester. So exams count for half of your course grade. We have 4 exams though. And then we have our online quizzes count for a fifth of our grade, and then the online activities / discussions there, and the research assignments there. So we have 4 exams. They are equally weighted. You can see the breakdown here. Generally speaking, that's going to be about 12 multiple choice questions, about 8 short answer questions. That division may kind of move around a little bit, but it's going to be a mix of multiple choice and short answer. The short answer, I'm looking for about a paragraph. I'm not looking for anything super long there, and everything is fair game for the exams. So it can come from the textbook, it can come from the lecture slides, it can come from the videos that I post, the readings that were assigned, or the online discussion. So everything is fair game. I will post a study guide just to help you target some of that study some of your studies for you. The final exam is not going to be cumulative, though. It's only going to cover the last 4 chapters. Quizzes are going to be 12 multiple choice questions. They're based on the book, and my hope is that you're going to read the textbook before you take those quizzes. And the reason why is so that way you'll know, like, all right, I should maybe spend some time focusing on these more advanced concepts that I don't really understand all that much. Or if you know that that's going to be a problem area for you, then you can always reach out, and I would be able to help with that. Give you any kind of guidance or explanations or whatever. Maybe generate some examples for you. But if you are pressed for time and you can't do that, it's okay. I think you can probably, push comes to shove, open up the quiz. The timer starts, you got an hour, and then you can open up the textbook and skim through it and try to find the answers there. I wouldn't recommend that, but yeah, you can if you want to. You can do it that way. But I feel like you won't retain as much that way. The chapter activities, these are kind of discussions, and usually what happens is I'm going to post a kind of open-ended question, have you take kind of a cognitive perceptual test, and report back on what you got, what you found, was it meaningful, how would you apply this to the real world. You can find a discussion rubric posted on Plato. I'll show you where to find that in just a moment, but you do need to make a post, and you do need to respond to a classmate for that stuff. The research quizzes, these are worth a little bit more. There is no final written project for this class, but we do have these research quizzes kind of taking up that. So instead of requiring a big research paper at the end, instead I have 4 research quizzes that I'm going to give you throughout the semester. And each of these research quizzes are going to come from a specific unit of, which means basically they're going to kind of be paired up with exams. So the first research quiz will kind of be about the first 4 chapters of the book. The second research quiz is about the middle 4, and so on and so forth. They can be intimidating for sure. So these I would absolutely recommend setting aside some time to skim through them, to read through them before you open up the quiz. That's how they're designed. Is I want you to kind of immerse yourself in that before you take the quiz on it. They can be really intimidating though, because they're chock full of scientific jargon and they're not super user friendly in that way. These quizzes are meant to ask you detailed based questions about the research article. So these are details that I don't expect you to have memorized and committed to heart, but that you do have the article at your side that you're able to scroll through to find it, and you know where to find it because you already read it. All right. So it's a mix of short answer and multiple choice. Other details, if you have any kind of accommodations through the Banacco Center, just let me know. I'm happy to be flexible with those, to work with you on that. The makeup policy is generally minus 10% for each day late, and all the assignments that we have are going to be posted over a week in advance. So if you know there's going to be some kind of emergency, let me know as soon as you can. Otherwise, yeah, not a big deal if it's a couple of days late, but you don't want to let those stack up because they can hurt your final grade if you let that happen too many times. I have a zero tolerance attitude for plagiarism on exams and on discussions. So think about it this way. I can't speak for every professor, but at least for me, I know it's an online class. I know it's easy to search for information, to Google information, and that's fine. As a researcher myself, I Google stuff all the time. But if I am pulling information from another source, my job as a researcher and as a scientist is that I cite where I got that work. I cite my sources. And it's not hard to do. Like, I can literally just copy and paste the link, right? It takes no time at all. And that's good practice. And so if you do consult outside sources, if you do find, language that you got somewhere else, show me where you got it from. So that way it doesn't look like you're trying to pass off someone else's work as your own. It's totally cool to cite your sources. That's what I do. That's what all the cool people I know do. Don't you want to be a cool person? Don't you want to cite your sources? All right, and if you ever have any kind of concerns, you can always email me, and I'd be happy to meet, schedule a time talk, things like that. I'm gonna walk through Plato in just a moment, but yeah, let's go ahead and turn our attention there now. So I'm gonna move over to Plato now. So this is going to be maybe a review to some folks, so I apologize for that. But I'm treating this like for folks that have never used Blackboard or Plato before, because I know there's some transfer students that are probably in that boat. Whenever you click on our class, this is what you see. It's going to give you the announcements first. Those announcements, they're going to populate here, and I'm usually going to try to send out probably 2 announcements every week, one at the beginning of the week and then one at the end of the week, letting you know, hey, you got stuff that's due. You should probably take care of that if you haven't already. So from there, we got the Contact Me section. This is just that you know what my email is, where the Zoom link is, so you can access that easily and at your convenience. The course calendar, as it sounds, is, is this? Oh, sorry, actually, I'm looking at my in-person section. I don't think it actually makes a difference, but I'm going to swap over anyways. I'm swapping over now. Yeah, so the course calendar looks a little bit different. So here is broken up into weeks instead of by class periods. And so you can see that for this week, we do not have we don't have anything due this Sunday. So this week, just familiarize yourself with the course, with the Plato, the course shell. And if you have any questions, you can let me know, so that way it doesn't sneak up on you next week. Or if you wanted to, you can actually go ahead and get a head start on this week's content. So this course calendar tells you what's due. The grades, you can see there's lots and lots of grades. So like I warned you about. The Start Here section, this has the course calendar, the course syllabus along with the discussion rubric. And I'm also going to post this video along with the slides here too, which is why you don't see it here yet. And then finally we have the Chapter 1 section, and this is kind of how every chapter is going to look for you this semester. We're going to have the quiz available, you're going to have the discussion available, and then you're going to have the slides you can download, and then a few different videos that walk through that course content. My goal here is to try to keep this as like you're getting as much info as you would if this were an in-person class. You pay a lot of money for college. I don't want you to feel like you're not getting your money's worth by taking an online class. I want you to feel like you got just as much as you would have gotten if you had taken this in person with me. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can find the first research quiz you can find here. You can find that this first very dense article about what they call grandmother cells. You can find that here. Super important article. But man, by now it's almost 20 years old. But you can find that there. And that research quiz. And you can find the exams. They will pop up in here whenever I start posting those. And that's pretty much it. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm really excited to work with you this semester, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.